Hi everybody, it's Cindy the Scrapologist, and I thought I would just craft with you a little bit today. And I've had a lot of requests for um, people that want to know what my process is when I make a junk journal. And I do have a video series out how to make a junk journal from start to finish, but it's very long and involved. There are so far, I think, 11 videos associated with that series, and so I thought I would just do a quick one to sort of sum up my thought process. So I'm not really doing a tutorial per se as much as I am trying to give you some ideas as to a, how to get started, because a lot of people have craft rooms just full of beautiful supplies and they either don't want to use them or cut into them, which I totally understand, or you're just so overwhelmed with your supplies that you don't know where to start. So, here's what I'm working on today. I had shown this in a previous video. I found this beautiful vintage book. It was right around the time of my 10th anniversary, so I was feeling a little romantic, and I just loved the cover and the image on the front cover. So, and I'm going to keep the spine. I kept the spine too. I love the number there and the whole vintage look of this. I do have another video where I showed how I took the book apart and then put some brown Tyvek on the inside. So my book is all ready to go. So I think sometimes when you're starting out, it's much easier, for me anyway, to start with a theme than just not have any theme and just try to make a book um, like this. This is another cover that I found, and obviously there's no theme on here. So it's just a bunch of old vintage paper and things that I've collected from estate sales and whatnot. And for some reason, this feels harder to me than doing a themed journal. So that's just a suggestion. Start with maybe a book cover that inspires you. So this one is going to be a wedding themed album. How cool would it be to get this for your wedding photos if you're really into vintage? I just think this is going to turn out so beautiful. I haven't decided quite what I'm going to do with the cover. I do have some flowers that are in my stash that were fussy cut. And if you are watching any of my Use Your Scraps videos, you know that once I finish a project, all of my scraps are organized so I can just go into my bins and find what I need. So I may or may not put some flowers on the front, not sure. But I'm setting these aside and we'll see. I usually do the cover last because I don't want to wreck it when I'm sewing in the signatures and I'm doing a lot of this and this and this, and I just don't want to wreck whatever I put on the cover. So I always do that last. So since I decided this was going to be my theme, I went through my craft room and shopped my room to see what I have that is marriage themed. I thought, okay, let's see. Marriage, love, what goes with weddings, lace, flowers. Just tried to think of things that go with this theme and pulled them out of my stash. I also pulled out, they have these chokers at Walmart, and they were like in a sale bin one day, 4 for $1. I got a whole bunch of these, and this might be a real pretty belly band around this. So I pulled that out too. To me, it kind of looked like a garter belt a little bit. So so that's what I might do with that. Then I looked through. Where did it go? I looked through this book that I found in a thrift store. I love it. It's Currier and Ives, and it's loaded with gorgeous images. And the nice thing about this too, which really helped me out, I loved this, is in the, if I can find it, in the contents under the illustrations, it lists them all. So I just actually went through and looked for love. Here's the lover's quarrel, the lover's reconciliation, the lover's walk, and I think I looked up wedding and marriage, and I pulled some of the appropriate ones out of this book, and this is what I found. I mean, how beautiful is this? Didn't even know I had it in my stash. Marriage certificate. So I'm going to be cutting this up and using it. And then on the back, there's the lover's quarrel and the lover's reconciliation. So beautiful and appropriate for this album. I was excited to find this, especially this marriage certificate. I already cut one up. I had another one that is really fun. Single and married. So I cut the extra paper off and folded it in half. It has another image on the other side. The only problem with this book is the opposite image is upside down. So I'll probably cover this, but I folded that up. And then I have another one. This is the lover's walk, the morning recreation. Can't read that one. What does it say? Black-eyed Susan and the little mama. But it was this one in particular, the lover's walk, that I wanted. So when you get one of my books, you get genuine vintage articles in your junk journals if you buy one from me. I don't do photocopies. I do um, some copying on to coffee stained paper, and this is what I've done so far. Let me see. Somewhere in here I have. Where did they go? Here they are. I did some. Excuse me for the sniffles. I've been sick in bed for the past few days. I found some free printables on the internet, and I printed these onto my coffee stained paper that I do. I have a video on how to get this cool look. Love that splatter there. Love it. So I wanted a vintage looking wedding bouquet. So I did that. And then I found this vintage image. It says congratulations. And I printed that onto coffee stained paper and cut it down to the right size for my book. And then I found this and printed that onto coffee stained paper. So look how beautiful that looks. Okay, and my printer sort of chopped it up a little bit, but I actually don't mind that. Sometimes I like to tear these anyway, so I'm not worried about that. Okay, so that's another idea. We've got cutting from old books, coffee staining some paper and doing some printing on it. I also went through my stash of scraps. Now, I had this from before, way back when, before I was an organized crafter. So this is some old paper. I can't even close it. I'm trying to show you the cover. I don't do this anymore. Because this is why. I can't stand this. Okay. Okay. So I had some old scrapbook paper from Graphic 45, Les Romantiques. This is from 2009, so I've had this in my stash for 8 years and have not figured out what to do with it. So now I know. So I've got all of this paper out, and I didn't junk journal back in 2009. So now I've got all these beautiful images and scraps that can go into the junk journal, and also whatever I made with this, I don't even remember what I made with this. but probably a custom order for somebody. But I kept all of the tags. There's 2 sheets of tags. Actually, these aren't tags. These are little frames. So I have these that I can work with. So that's sort of hint number 3. Go through your stash and you will be surprised what you find. When I was doing my Paris journal, Paris themed junk journal, I've never been to Paris. I probably would never will go to Paris, but I couldn't believe how many Parisian style themed papers and embellishments that I had. A lot of it was Tim Holtz. He had the Eiffel Tower on some things. And so when you're shopping your craft room from a theme-based approach, you will be amazed at what you have in your stash. So this is going to serve me very well for this book. And I took some of the papers from that and went over to my Cricut. I mean my I never remember the name of that thing because I never use it. You know, my Cricut thing. What is it? Hold on. Sizzix. I never remember the name of it. I bought a silhouette, so I don't use it very often anymore. But anyway, so I have some little heart dies because hearts obviously fit in with the theme, and I didn't find any hearts in my stash, amazingly enough. So I cut out these little hearts that I will probably use somewhere in the journal. So another little teeny weeny one, come here, in the journal, okay? So that's another thing. Look to, if you have a Sizzix or a Silhouette or a Cricut or something like that, look and see what you have for dies and look and see what shapes you can cut out. And I did start folding up some of the scrapbook paper. Let's see, this is just plain tea stained. Okay, where'd my pile go? Here it is. So the other thing, let's see, I also found in my vintage magazines, I also found this, and that's just a lovely image, isn't it? A woman of personality, and it's a little bit of their love story. So that's going to go, and it just happened when I folded it. There's a cartoon, a vintage cartoon on the back, and some recipes on this side, and that's okay. It's about a housewife, so I think it's I think it's lovely. And I'm using the bottom part of that too because the love story is continued here, and there's a neat recipe there. I mean, an ad there and a recipe there. So why not do something with this? Now, let's see. So this is my pile of what I've done so far. This I had to when I did the, let me just find it. When I did the printing on my printer, I forgot that my book is only 5.5 inches tall, so I ended up having to cut this off, and it's really pretty, so I tore it a little bit, and I'm just going to stick it on here. So when I'm working, I keep all my little scraps. I have a pile here of little scraps that when you're collaging or layering, don't throw these out until you're done with your junk journal because you will more than likely use some of them. Then yesterday I did some sewing because again, one of the things that I said I thought went really well with this theme is lace. So I wanted to do some sewing and some lace. This here is a very thin scrap of graphic 45 paper that was in that La Romantique. And let me see if I can find another piece. don't have any more super, super thin ones, but all I did was accordion it. So I just kind of eyeballed it and folded it like this. And it doesn't really have to be neat. This one's a little too short, but you get the idea. So I just accordioned it. And then I took some of the little elements from the scrapbook paper. These were on the tags sheet, and I cut them out. And then I just sewed a line and sewed all of these things on. That's one of the sewing things that I did. And I like to use a different color in my bobbin than I use on the top of the sewing machine. I've mentioned that before, because then you get a different color on the other side. So on this side I have brown, and on this side I have white. And then I chose, I also thought that doilies went very well with this theme. And I found some washi tape. So shop your washi tape too. I don't have a lot that's girly girl. As you can see, most of it's sort of more Tim Holtzy, I guess, even though this is not Tim Holtz. Um, but I do have some flowers that I'll be using. So shop your washi tape too, and get it out and put it on your desk while you're working on the project. So I just put a doily on there with a little bit of tape and a strip of washi tape. And then I did more sewing. I wanted a lot of lace in the album, so just took a strip of lace, and it's always fun to have some hanging off so that you get the lace look on the opposite side too. And look at how great this coffee stained paper came out. Excuse me. So more sewing. And so I like some on the outside, some on the inside. This is on the inside. That's for later. And here's some other lace that I found that I thought would make a real pretty tuck spot. Here and here. This is just another piece of scrapbook paper. And these I haven't decorated yet. And then the last thing that I found were I have a lot of vintage playing cards. And I thought it would be fun to put the King and Queen of Hearts on here. And I just sewed right across them. I did tape these down a little bit, but I left this as a tuck spot, this here, and just sewed it down. What else? So this is just some paper I had in my stash. This is a calendar page, but I liked the little his and her, it looks like his and her pens down here. I liked that image for this theme. I had an old book page that said congratulations on it. And it has a little poem here. God send them together who fain would be loved. So I will definitely do something with this. And then I had in my stash also that I got from a thrift store, I have a World Book Encyclopedia. I had Q to R. And I thought, what's wedding themed that's Q to R? And the only thing I could think of was roses. So I pulled out the page that has roses on it. Now, here are some other miscellaneous things that I did. These are just doilies. They can go over there. This is one of the frames from the scrapbook paper, which I may or may not use. And I made a little tuck spot. This is going to just get glued on the bottom onto a page. And I took some craft paper and inked it up. And then I had some dictionary paper that I tore up, and a doily, and some cheesecloth, and some pretty lace with pearls. I thought that that looked really, really wedding-like, something you'd see on a wedding gown. and an image from the scrapbook paper. This is a tag that came from that. I backed it onto another piece of scrapbook paper and put a goldish brad on the top. And what I'll do with this is I will put it on a page like this. And how gorgeous is that? And then I'll leave this up. I'll leave this unattached. So there's that. And then I just had I have some tissue tissue type paper and some cheesecloth. I also found this. This has been in my stash for a long time. And it's made out of fabric. It's from Webster's Pages. I say this all the time. I wish they still did scrapbook stuff instead of just planners because they had some gorgeous original things. And this is one of them. And I thought that this could be doors to a church, perhaps. I thought that this fit in with the theme and especially where it looks so lacy. So I found that, and that's in my stash of things to use. This was just some sewing that I did on some of the scrapbook paper, as well as this. Just did some sewing around the edges and put some more trim, burlap and pink trim on the other side. This is a cut apart from the Graphic 45 paper, and I'm thinking that this would look really nice right here. So I love the look of it with this staining and the kind of tearing that's on this book, because I sort of, even though it doesn't have anything to do with the theme, I love this library thing here. And I think I want to leave that. And it has the word chapel on it. Come to think of it, look, chapel. So yeah, we'll consider that to be wedding themed. And then with my envelope punch board, I made some envelopes out of the scrapbook paper. And from my vintage dictionary, I pulled out the word lovable. And just did a circle around it. And I might do a little more there, I'm not sure. And that's going into the little envelope. Isn't that cute? So if you have an envelope punch board and you have some scraps, make some of these. And then I took some of the tags that are in the scrapbook paper and just did a little piece of lace, sewed a little piece of lace on the top. And this is one of the cut apart. She's really gorgeous. And I just sewed around the edges. And same with this one, just sewed around the edges. And then I took my envelope punch board and made this kind of envelope. It says love on it. I will probably round this and decorate this, but I made an envelope too. So this is what I do when I'm sitting here. I have all my little piles around me, which I wish I could show you, but I can't zoom out enough. So I have my scrapbook paper over here. Up here I have all the little items that I already made. I like to make all my little tags and envelopes and things like this in advance before I stick them in the book. Those are up here. And then I've got over on this side, I have all my vintage book pages. And then over to the right of me, I have pages that I've already done. So I kind of go in stages, I guess. It's really fun to shop your own craft room and just see what you have. So In conclusion, let me just say if you're having a hard time getting started, you feel overwhelmed, start with a theme that inspires you. Find a book cover that you just fall in love with and shop your room, put everything in piles around you, and before you know it, you will have an entire gorgeous junk journal. So, thank you so much for watching. I hope that this gave you some helpful tips, and I'll see you in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe and give me some love. Thanks. Bye.